Now this is a story all about how Grey Rat's quest line turned my life upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I found out splintering bolts are a nightmare.
Curse the gods!
Hello. Today I'm going on a great journey. A quest, you might say. In my latest top 10 video, I demonstrated this amazing trick with curving dark arrows. Down in the comments of that video, something caught my eye. Somebody mentioned a type of crossbow bolt that I don't think I've ever seen in the game before. The way this comment describes them as bleed shotgun crossbow bolts intrigues me. Before we tackle one of the most confusing quest lines in Dark Souls 3, I have a little sponsored segment. Well, I don't know if it's sponsored as such, but it's this monitor right here that I'm using, and I'm planning to review it, and the way this works is I was not paid anything to make this video, but I get to keep the test unit. Okay, jumping right in, this is the EW3280U monitor from BenQ, and wow, that's satisfying to say. With 4K resolution, HDRI, and accurate color modes, I found it works very well for video editing. I've never had a screen like this, so just for the sheer size and quality, it's been beneficial. I can even play Dark Souls 3 or Sekiro in a window with my recording software open in another, maybe even Discord on the side as well. In general, it seems to be quite a jack of all trades. It's part of the BenQ entertainment line, so I'm sure you could use it as a television too, if you know what I mean, since the screen is 32 inches. The design is nice and minimal, the edge bezels are really slim, although I would say the colour of the base might work better on wooden desks. You can also keep your cables nice and tidy with this part of the base. The stand doesn't provide that much tilt and adjustment, which I would say is one potential negative. Setting it up was extremely easy. Once it's put together on the base, you can just plug in the power cable and then HDMI to your PC. It has a really well designed remote control, which you can keep on this pad, which fits in the base when you aren't using it. With the remote, you can change things like color profiles, blue light settings, audio profiles, and HDR profiles. There's also a mechanical dial, which I almost missed, underneath for the volume. And speaking of volume, this has easily the best built-in stereo speakers for a monitor that I've ever heard. Like, if I didn't edit videos and audio, I might not even bother using my own external speakers. It's that good. For video games, you'd want a refresh rate equal to or higher than your frame rate. This monitor has a refresh rate of 60 Hz, which I believe is a bit on the low side for gaming. However, the monitor does support AMD FreeSync and Nvidia's G-Sync, which is technology that helps to stop screen tearing, stuttering, and input. Did I really just stutter? Okay. It works for both creating and consuming. It has 4 ports for multiple sources, USB-C compatibility. It should probably have been a bit more adjustable, like moving the screen height up and down, but not a huge deal. Maybe you're yet to experience the true beauty of 4K resolution like I was. I'll add the link in the description so you can take a look at it on BenQ's website. These bolts can only be found in one place, hidden among the immeasurable folds.
Up my ass.
The Shrine Handmaid is a merchant who can increase her stock when you exchange the umbral ash. Why would this old woman want the ashen remains of dead people, I hear you ask? Now, unfortunately, she does not stock splintering bolts at the start of the game. Instead, you have to fulfill Grey Rat's questline to the very end and bring back his ashes to the handmaid before she coughs up the bolts. First things first, moving through the high wall of Lothric Tower, we'll yoink the cell key.
Yoink!
Take it all the way down the tower to Grey Rat's cell. The beginning of this tale isn't too complicated, and I'm sure most people managed it fine. He simply requests that you deliver a ring to Loretta, who further on in the game it's implied is his grandmother. Leaving the high wall and entering the undead settlement, you'll come across the sad remains of a hanging corpse. Strike it down, boom, and you'll find Loretta's bone. Side note, I always assumed it was literally one of her bones, but some say it was more likely to be an old homeward bone she tried to use to escape. They do look kind of similar. Either way, when you return to Grey Rat with this news and show him the bone, he initially is surprised.
Heavens, she was already dead.
But soon becomes inconsolable. That's the first part of his quest complete. This is where we become business partners and we can start sending him out on morally questionable scavenging missions. he will ask you to grant him permission to go on the prowl. We all know what that means. We're pretty much employing thieves to start a criminal empire, and I'm all for it. A big part of quest progression in this game is meeting certain conditions, so in order to trigger Greyrat's first pillage session, I crossed the bridge, met Sigurd, and rested at the Road of Sacrifice's bonfire. That way, when I warped back to Firelink, I can be certain he's gone on his first mission.
Well, perhaps I'll go on the prowl.
This lovable onion, this courageous destroyer of giants, drunk on life but also probably Siegbrows, is the hero we need. Or we will need, which means to further Greyrat's quest, you gotta help an onion out. Take him up the lift in the Undead Settlement Tower and then double team a fire demon.
I, Sigurd of the Knights of Katarina, fight by your side.
Just an average Tuesday.
Long may the sun shine.
He'll offer you a Siegbrow, a victory brew. Now, with Sigurd's story begun, we can safely continue by finishing off the Crystal Sage boss at the end of the Road of Sacrifices. Doing this will trigger Greyrat's return. Greyrat won't go on another mission until you discover Irithyll, so in the meantime, you need to focus on either Sigurd or Patches. The reason for this is when Greyrat is sent to pillage Irithyll later on, he will die alone in the sewers, unless either Patches or Sigurd are around to save him. But even though I had literally planned this playthrough to be efficient, I still kind of screwed things up by exploring the rafters before meeting Patches.
Shame on you, you greedy guts. Thought you could outwit an onion.
I mean, the whole point of doing the Cathedral of the Deep, obviously aside from the fact that it's required to enter Irithyll, was to encounter this traitorous, annoying, slimy weasel. Remember earlier how I said the complex aspect of these character quests was the conditions and triggers and blah blah blah. Long story short, if you explore the area too thoroughly, you'll likely end up reaching the rafters at the top of the cathedral before being tricked by Patches on the bridge encounter, and then he won't appear.
It's me, Siegfried of Katarina. Someone's swiped my armor.
Something I didn't mention is our beloved onion friend somehow got stuck down a well outside the cathedral. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is he's had his armor stolen by Patches himself.
Sorry, friend. Be more careful.
I can't get his armor back from Patches because Patches is now stuck in the Matrix. Like, he technically exists, but just not right now. Plan B is squish enough souls to purchase the tower key from our old friend the Handmaiden. This opens up the tower at the back of Firelink Shrine, where there is a second backup encounter with Patches. I'm pretty certain the developers put this in the game because they knew dumb players like me would mess up the cathedral encounter every single time. Patches traps you at the top by locking a gate behind you. Once you've escaped this, he'll be on the upper floor, and after arguing with him,
Oh, for heaven's sake, no need to jest with a face like that.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out.
he'll act as a merchant now and sells you stuff. This includes the Katarina armor he stole from poor Sigurd. Finally, we can reunite Sigurd with his armor.
With my trusty suit of armor, I'll be out of here in a jiffy.
Onwards towards Irithyll. I cleared out the Deacons of the Deep to get the small doll, which we'll need to get in. I then squelched and plodded through Farron Keep to break up the Abyss Watchers, and then spooked the Skeleton Lord of the Catacombs. The Catacombs exit connects to Irithyll, and now we can cruise across the bridge to the Boreal Valley.
I broke my back.
Now that we've accessed Irithyll, we can send Greyrat on another treasure hunt. Do not go into the Irithyll dungeons before making sure Sigurd is in place, so Sigurd should be up through the basement sewers in the kitchen. He's got some incredibly important dialogue at this stage. If you're following along, make sure you don't miss it. In this story, however, this is where our time with Sigurd ends, because he saved Greyrat's life, and that's the final bit of help from him that we needed. Now, I planned ahead at this stage, and I continued on to defeat Pontiff Sullivan, went back to check Grey Rat returned successfully, and he did.
I might have died if it wasn't for that peculiar onion knight, but in the end, it all paid off.
Aldrich was then another fight I needed to do that was in Anor Londo, and then one last step in our preparation for the final act lies in the profaned capital. Yorm the Giant is the residing ruler, and one of the last things on our checklist to ensure that we can pick up the Grand Archives key. Once I defeat Yorm, I get transported all the way back to Emma, the High Priestess of Lothric Castle. This will happen whenever you defeat the 3 Lords of Cinder, so this is normal progression of the main story, wherein she leaves you the Basin of Vows as she dies, which signals the arrival of my favourite boss. Dancer of the Boreal Valley was technically the first Dark Souls 3 boss I ever attempted. All the way back at Germany's Gamescom in 2015 when it had a different name called Wall of Lodlith, which was definitely an early game area. The boss at the end of it was called Dancer of the Frigid Valley, and it was a very cool boss fight. Not too challenging though. I actually ended up beating it on my second try. Yeah guys, I play Dark Souls. What of it? After the Dancer comes the Lothric Castle, and this will be Grey Rat's third and, spoiler alert, final outing.
Not a single man has returned from the castle unscathed, even back in the day.
I don't see how this could go wrong. The Dragon Slayer armor do got some moves though. Fun fact about this one, the ones who are animating this hollow suit of armor are actually the pilgrim butterflies who fly overhead. When you destroy the armor, the butterflies die simultaneously. After this, we can enter the Grand Archives, but only because we defeated the 3 Lords of Cinder. If that requirement is met, the key will be on Blackhand Gotthard's corpse. This corpse, by the way, is extremely weird. There's no other way of putting it. This dead man is blinking and staring at me, and I don't like it. If you manage to complete all these steps, carefully managing the 3 interwoven storylines up to this point without triggering any failure states, then this is the location of Grey Rat's corpse. He flew too close to the metaphorical sun. Most likely he got torn apart by those nearby Corvian crows. Sadly, it's not possible to save him. This is where his story ends. For us though, we're carrying on and carrying his ashes on to the Shrine Handmaid. Step 1, select Umbral Ash. Step 2, give Grey Rat's ashes. Step 3, profit. So what I'm going to do is roughly go over the things I plan to test now that I have unlimited access to these rare splintering bolts. It's really quite difficult to find any information about crossbow builds using these bolts online, especially recent information. So my plan is to see if they can be useful in some way. Because man, they look so freaking good. How brave can you really be when your back resembles a pincushion? The main trick with these bolts is they inflict bleed. So maximizing bleed will most likely be the way to go. And that involves going hollow, increasing luck, infusing weapons with blood, and so on. At this point, I've spent over 30 hours on this video with the playing, recording, editing, and all that. So I'll cut it off here and follow up with the PvP and the testing in a separate video soon. Remember everyone, in the wise words of Grey Rat,
The cornered rat will lick the balls of a cat.